It's going to be his lungs. He has what's called pulmonary contusions. And all that means that he has bruises to his lungs. The best way to think about a lung is think about a sponge. A sponge that, if it gets beat up, it's going to collect with blood. And collecting it with something that's real thick is really hard to squeeze that sponge out. And so what we're wanting to do is put air in there, oxygen in there, but his sponge is full of blood, unfortunately. And that means we can't get oxygen in there. So that's going to be by far his toughest road is oxygen. We'll try to do what we can just on regular settings, basic settings while he's in here, but he may require some kind of more advanced types of breathing machines. Okay? I'll see how he does in the next hour or so. Thanks. Thank you. So that's going to be by far his biggest issue. Okay, and this may be an issue that lasts for a week, it may last for a couple of weeks. And really, the things that we want to do for his bones really can't be dealt with until we take care of his lungs.
So he can breathe.
He has to breathe. We can't give him oxygen, then nothing else is going to function.
Right, that's right.
Right now, the regular breathing machine is going to be nice and quiet. You won't really notice that it's there. You'll kind of hear some just little gases. We may put him on one that sounds more like pistons. So if you hear that sound, if you walk into his room, that just means he's requiring a more advanced type of breathing machine. That just means that it's something for us that we expected, but definitely that things are worse. Okay? So the pulmonary contusions are by far the most important. From that injury, you can get collapsed lung, and that's what he developed in the operating room. You try as best you can to blow a bunch of oxygen in there, but if the tension and everything builds up too much in his chest, that lung just collapses. It just falls apart. And the only way to really get it to re-expand is to put a tube between his ribs and suck out that excess air. Just kind of suck on the lung and make it re-expand. And so I had to run into the operating room and do that for him. So he has that on his right side. It may require that on his left side later on. We'll see how it goes. That tube will stay in there until really he's off the breathing machine. Unless he's doing really, really well, but it'll more than likely stay until he's off the breathing machine. Okay.
And the tube is, just to be clear, is the tube is sending air into the lungs.
It's actually sucking it out.
Oh, it's sucking it out.
It's sucking air out. It's almost like there's negative pressure. So the way to get that lung to expand is to suck air out. And as you suck air out, that lung will pull towards what you're sucking. The same way we breathe. Our diaphragm is inside, and as we breathe, it pulls down and draws air into the lungs. So it pulls things inside. Okay. And so that's more of a suction type thing. Okay. The next most important is probably going to be his pelvis. And the pelvis is important because, like he said, Dr. Bradshaw, it bleeds. There's a lot of veins that are in the very back that we sit on, that if those bones break, they lacerate or cut those veins. And we just have to watch and see how his blood pressure goes and how his blood level goes. He will bleed some, as long as it's not too much. He can handle a little bit of blood loss as long as it's not too much. He's probably going to require transfusions, and we'll see how he does from there. Okay. If that portion stays stable, we'll see how it goes as far as operation, and it all depends on his lungs. The next thing is going to be his arm, his left arm. There was a little concern if he had a major vessel that was hurt or injured, but we found out, like Dr. Bradshaw said, it was a small one. And it's really the one that's not the dominant one. The hand has two. The one that's here is not the most dominant. She's the one that's here, and that's the one that he has. So we got lucky on that part. And so that portion is taken care of. But he still has a lot of broken bones in here that need to be fixed. He has a lot of open wounds that need to be dealt with all the time. So he'll be in and out of the operating room based on how his lungs are. Okay? So everything, as y'all notice, goes all the way back to the lungs. If his lungs aren't doing well, he can't go anywhere. Because every time we move him from this room to another, his lungs will get worse just by taking him off the breathing machine. He has a small. Yes.
What do you mean by every time we move up from this room to another?
This room to the operating room, you have to take him off the vent, the breathing machine.
Oh, okay.
And by doing so, it allows what's called alveoli, little pockets that are in our lung that collapse.
Right.
And if they're not getting positive pressure, they'll collapse, and we have to kind of start from scratch.
Okay, so the ventilator can't move with him?
No.
Baby, come here, baby.
It typically can't. So we know we're going to lose a little bit of ground by moving.
We're getting the information.
We have one, if he needs it, that's a particular type of machine, we have one machine that can go with it. But typically we just use a bag to go with it.
Just a bag that
So
keeps
one
it.
machine that can go with it.
And that's only an advanced machine if he needs that machine. Because it's so crucial to have that one that we won't even risk that loss. If he doesn't need that machine, that's great. That's really good.
What's the prognosis for the lungs to get to a point to where, you can, I mean,
kind of move towards other things?
Yeah. I mean,
I'd probably say he's going to have ups and downs probably for the next week. But I mean, ups and downs where we're going in and having to bag him up. What we call bagging is disconnecting him from the machine and actually physically pushing the oxygen into his chest to get things to re-expand. And he may have episodes of that throughout the next week. Okay? The best thing on his side is youth. Mm-hmm. Being young really helps because he's
in good shape.
In good shape. And that's just going to help so much. But he can have a lot of ups and downs. And I would expect ups and downs. I expect him for tomorrow to be a lot worse than he is today. He's in bad shape today. I expect tomorrow to be a little worse. If the next day gets better, okay. But the next day may get worse. Lots of ups and downs of the first week. And it's just based on his lungs. It's very difficult to get those just to re-expand. The only thing that's going to help us out is time, just to allow those big clots that are in his lungs to be absorbed by the body. So I'd say probably give him another week before we really see improvements. If he does better than that, I'm excited.
How long is this like initial process? Do you think that he'll be here?
ICU or in the hospital?
In the hospital.
In the hospital, I'd give him a couple, probably close to a month.
I'm ready whenever you are. Just to let you know. Okay.
Probably close to a month. All because of his lungs. If it was just the arm and the pelvis, give him a couple of weeks. The lungs alone will probably keep him in the ICU for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And, you know, it's not uncommon to lead to a tracheostomy where you have to put a breathing tube here. And so, not uncommon to have to do that for this time.
But that wouldn't be permanent.
No.
Oh, no, tracheotomy.
It's all just very temporary. Just temporary. But I would expect him to be on the breathing machine for a couple of weeks.
But here for a couple of months.
At least a month. At least a month. Yes, sir. Because even once he gets better from his lungs, we still have to address his pelvis. We still have to get this arm fixed. So
you have to do all.
There's still all those things to address.
The main thing is getting that lung.
Yeah, getting some oxygen. And we had some issues in the operating room already, so that kind of tells us that things are going to get bad for us. And we've seen it so much that we know what to expect. And so what we typically do is be aggressive in the front, and then we can kind of pull things off of it all. And so if I see that he's having trouble right now, I'm going to go ahead and go to that piston type machine that is really noisy and it's kind of scary, but just to kind of give you guys a heads up. So if you hear that sound, that just means we're being more aggressive.
But keep putting the air in.
Yes,
Or taking the air out.
the machines push air in, the chest tube sucks air out. Yes, ma'am.
I want to just write this one down.
Of course.
So with it absorbing, you know, I guess you said there's blood that it's absorbing.
Yeah, it's like if you get hit on your arm, you have a big bruise where it kind of swells up a little bit.
So would that mean that there's internal bleeding or
inside of his lung? Yeah, the lung tissue.
The lungs itself is injured, and so that's where the blood is coming from.
Yes, yes, sir.
Then from the bag in the car, it caused the bruising on the lungs for that?
Typically not that much trauma. It takes a little bit more impact to do that. The bag will usually cause some trauma, but not enough to cause these kind of contusions. So it's either steering wheel or the dashboard.
Okay.
They
Do you know
cause
if he
problems.
went out through the door to the...
Now, that portion I'm not sure. I don't know.
That's what I didn't want to ask him.
Okay.
What? Okay.
It's just not a good thing to see.
Yeah.
It's not the best thing to see.
You can't go back there right now.
You can go back there.
Now, there's a few things we'll start doing for him now. Already go ahead and give him some nutrition. We prefer to always take him off the breathing machine, but knowing his lungs are that bad, he'll be on the breathing machine for a while. So there's going to be a tube that's in his mouth, that's the breathing machine. One that's in his nose goes to his stomach. And we'll use that to start feeding him and start giving him nutrition now, because he'll need a lot of healing. Of course, IVs and things all over, so there's lots of things in there. If there's any questions, feel free to ask anything. I'm Quigley. I'm just one of the chiefs that's in here, in and out. Dr. Del Prado is going to be the main contact here. DELPRADO.
Man, y'all want to know when I'm going to keep my son.
Yes.
And then,
So it's tough.
Why are you crying?
come here. Come here. Sit down. Okay, go ahead, honey.